Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this one today, because we're looking at a truly fascinating intersection of history and theology. We're going to explore the tragic, heartbreaking fall of the 800-year-old Andalusian civilization and connect it directly to the profound theological depths of Allah's names. Now, I know it might sound like a crazy leap to connect the collapse of a medieval empire to the study of divine attributes, but by the time we finish, you're going to see exactly how calibrating the human mind through these concepts is actually the ultimate key to a society's survival.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the dream of Andalusia, look at the disease of division, talk about the mind built by revelation, dig into the true meaning of Husna, and wrap up with Tenzi and Tashbih. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The Dream of Andalusia. When we talk about Islamic history, Andalusia represents arguably the most glorious culmination of knowledge and culture the world had ever seen. It was essentially an 800-year magnificent dream. It all started way back in 711 AD when Tariq bin Ziyad crossed the strait with just 7,000 soldiers. Imagine that, an empire built from such a tiny beginning, stretching across centuries. But it didn't last. This incredible empire faced a slow, agonizing decline, marked by the fall of the Jewel City, Cordoba, in 1236, and concluding in profound tragedy with the final exile of the Moriscos in 1602.
Now, check out this number, 400,000. That is the exact number of handwritten books in the library of Hisham II in Cordoba alone. And we aren't talking about simple paperbacks here. These were meticulously crafted texts, many of them written on actual deerskin. The dedication to knowledge was literally staggering. To really put this into perspective, while Cordoba alone boasted 28 distinct universities, the rest of Europe had, well, zero, nothing comparable. Cordoba had 25 paper factories running, while folks in the West had literally never even seen a sheet of paper. The Andalusians introduced sugar, citrus, and rice to a continent completely unaware of them. They weren't just surviving, they were operating at the absolute peak of human civilization.
Which brings us to Section 2, the disease of division.
So the obvious question is, how exactly does an 800-year empire of this incredible magnitude, with all its wealth and knowledge, simply collapse? Well, the source material is remarkably clear on this. It wasn't primarily external enemies, it was an internal rot, specifically what's called asabiyat and tefrika. We're talking about the deep diseases of tribalism, blind partisanship, and the kind of vicious internal division that just eats a society from the inside out.
The internal conflicts were, frankly, horrifying. The sources detail how Muslims turned on their own allies, fracturing completely along ethnic lines. You had Arabs fighting Berbers, Yemenites slaughtering Syrians. It actually got to the point where they were secretly marking the doors of their rivals at night just to massacre them later. They were literally making deals to hand over their own glorious cities to opposing Spanish counts, just despite their internal political rivals. Absolute self-destruction.
So, the absolutely crucial point is this. When a people focus all their hatred and energy on destroying each other instead of fixing the division itself, the divine support holding that society together is withdrawn. Internal division is the ultimate destroyer of civilizations. It basically does the enemy's work for them.
Section 3. The Mind Built by Revelation. Okay, so if internal arrogance and division destroy a society, how does a civilization avoid that fate? We can actually see the answer etched into one of the most famous architectural wonders of the world, the Alhambra. The Nasriya dynasty carved this specific phrase, "Vela Ghalibe illallah," meaning "there is no victor but Allah," into virtually every single wall, archway, and even the bedrooms of the palace. Why do that? To constantly, obsessively remind themselves of their own human fragility, to prevent the exact kind of arrogance that destroys empires. This is exactly what a mind built by revelation looks like in practice. It requires a constant awareness of the divine, a complete rejection of human pride, and anchoring your soul far beyond mere materialism. It's highly similar to those historical anecdotes about Ottoman sultans who literally hired people to walk beside them during public processions just to whisper, "Don't be proud, Sultan, Allah is greater than you." It's a deliberate structural mechanism to kill the ego.
Moving on to Section 4, the meaning of Husna. Now we're going to pivot a bit from history to theology. Because to build this incredibly resilient, ego-free mind we just talked about, you have to have a correct understanding of God. And that is achieved through studying the Asma-ul Husna, the most beautiful names of Allah.
Let's deconstruct the linguistics here, because translations often fail us. In Turkish, the everyday word used for beauty is güzel, which generally means something that is appealing to the eye, a visual, surface-level aesthetic. But the Arabic word husna is vastly deeper. It means something that is inherently good, deeply beneficial, and fundamentally perfect. It's a perfection that touches the soul, not just the retina.
And this distinction matters immensely. As the source explains, some earthly beauties can actually be a fitna, a distraction or a temptation that leads straight to ruin. But divine beauty, husna, is perfectly pure. It anchors the human mind in absolute goodness, never leading to distraction or destruction. It is a beauty that actually heals the observer.
Finally, Section 5, Tenzi and Teshbih.
All right, we now arrive at the philosophical climax of our explainer. We're looking at how Islamic theology balances two massive, seemingly opposing concepts to perfectly stabilize the human mind. First, we have tenzi, or transcendence, the idea that God is completely unlike anything in creation. Nothing is like him. But right alongside that, we have tashbih, or immanence, the reality that God is deeply active, intimately seeing and hearing in our daily lives.
Now, the extreme dangers of getting this wrong are severe. If you lean entirely into absolute tenzih, making God completely transcendent and removed, you end up with a distant, unknowable clockmaker God, which ultimately paves the way for strict materialism. But if you swing the other way and lean entirely into absolute teshbih, you fall into anthropomorphism, treating God like a physical human, or pantheism, where you think everything physical is divine. Both of these extremes completely shatter the mind's proper calibration.
So I want to ask you, watching this right now, how do we balance these two extremes? How do you hold these two massive, weighty concepts, absolute transcendence and intimate presence, together in your mind without breaking your understanding of reality?
Well, the answer is the golden mean. By holding both concepts simultaneously through the divine names, you create a unified, balanced understanding of God. This golden mean acts like a psychological and spiritual anchor. It perfectly calibrates the human mind and soul so that it neither despairs in a cold, materialistic universe, nor gets lost in superstitious pantheism.
And the Quran itself bridges this constantly. Take the famous verse, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say, He is Allah who is one. Think about that. The word He represents the distant, unseen, transcendent tanzih. Yet in the exact same breath, it is connected to one, the absolute, present, unifying reality of teshbih. Your mind is stretched to the heavens and then immediately grounded back into absolute unity.
Which brings us to our final, provocative thought. If a perfectly balanced theology creates a unified, ego-free mind, could this precise theological balance be the ultimate cure for the internal divisions that destroy civilizations? We saw how the loss of unity and the rise of tribalism literally doomed the glorious 800-year empire of Andalusia. So perhaps mastering the study of the divine names isn't just an abstract theological exercise. Perhaps it's the exact psychological antidote to the societal collapse that history constantly warns us about. It's definitely something to deeply ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and keep asking the big questions.